Recording, and we're ready to go whenever you are.
All right. Hello in TV land. My name is Sebastian Rickoff, and this is
Rowan Wood, and this is Across the Stars, where if it's Star Wars, we cover it. And so today, we are closing out our prequel movie reviews with our. I think we agree, Sebastian. We agree that this is the best prequel.
This is by far. There's no discussion. Revenge of the Sith just sort of takes the cake here.
Of course. So I believe it's also the shortest, one of the shortest prequels, which I think is interesting because the most happens in it, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
I think Phantom Menace might be a little bit shorter, but still, you would think of something as packed as Revenge of the Sith to be pretty long, right? But yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah. So...
I realized as I was watching it was somewhere around like the 40-minute mark is where I thought that the halfway point was, because I feel like especially that introduction scene is very packed too.
Yeah. So one thing that Sebastian and I have been comparing throughout our prequel movie reviews are the number of pages of notes that we have while watching these movies. And so for Phantom Menace, I believe I had 6, and for Attack of the Clones, I had double that, which was 12. And for Revenge of the Sith, I have 7.5. So, like, in between those. Sebastian, what was your... How do your page counts stack up?
My first one was 6.5. Attack of the Clones was 5.5. And then this last one here is also 5.5. And I'm convinced that the only reason Attack of the Clones had more notes or not Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, is because I watched the deleted scenes and gave them their own page.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole episode on Star Wars deleted scenes because there's so much to unpack in all of these movies. But yeah, so for these movie reviews, if you haven't listened or seen any of ours before, we basically go through the movies chronologically in terms of events, and we give our thoughts on what happens and the movie overall near the end. So, any thoughts before we jump in?
Let's just get right into it.
Fabulous. So, Revenge of the Sith, I think, has the best opening of any prequel of all of the prequels. Yeah. So, one thing I want to mention before we actually get into what happens is so the Clone Wars finale on Disney Plus, like the past few episodes, take place concurrent with Revenge of the Sith. It shows where Clone Wars characters Ahsoka and Rex are during the Battle of Coruscant and Anakin turning to the dark side. And so so there's a Reddit user, totally forget their name, but they made like a massive 5-hour movie that's Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars finale episodes happening like concurrently. It's so cool. And all of you listening out there, I highly recommend you check it out. Obviously, you probably shouldn't watch the whole thing in one sitting because that's long. That's longer than any of the Lord of the Rings extended editions. But still, it's so cool to just skim through and see, the editing choices they made, and how everything, what's happening at what time. It's super cool, and y'all should check it out. Anyway, so Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3, begins with the Battle of Coruscant.
Speaking of the Clone Wars, I just want to mention that it's one of the things I really liked about the 2003 Clone Wars is that at the very end you can see sort of how Palpatine gets captured by Grievous, and they even explain his asthma and all that.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
It's a shame it's not canon anymore.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because Grievous, I believe, was an original character for that series.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, if you see him in that series, that is, the best you will ever see Grievous, I feel.
Yeah.
I know this because of my brother, right? Yeah. My brother, whenever we watch this movie, he always tells me the same. He says that the length of the Coruscant scene, the, Battle over Coruscant scene was supposed to be, an hour and a half. Wow. It was supposed to be way longer than it actually was.
Yeah.
but they cut it down, just to make the movie shorter.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, and honestly, I think it's the perfect length for what we got. Because we have some banter between Anakin and Obi-Wan. We have the actual rescue. We have like the twist, and like I know there's the deleted scenes. I'm sure we'll do a full episode on deleted scenes sometime.
Definitely.
But there's a ton of deleted scenes of the rescue. Like super battle droids.
Like Shaak Ti getting killed.
Yeah, Shaak Ti and like the super battle droids like in the water, like in the sewers of the ship and stuff. It's super cool. But I understand why they cut that out because it doesn't have any weight on the story going forward. Yeah, but my first story note was, how the fuck did Grievous get into the Capitol and kidnap Palpatine? Which, you said that the Clone Wars 2003 series explains that. I want to know how. How does that happen?
He literally just saw, that window that he has, like, that just overlooks all of Coruscant?
Yeah.
Grievous just sort of breaks in through there. And, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've seen this, so my recollection may not be great. He just sort of, like, kidnaps him. He fights off 2 Jedi. Shaak Ti's one of them. And as he's escaping, Shaak Ti, like, crushes his lungs.
Whoa.
And that's why he has the, like, coughing fit
of thing
throughout the movie.
That's actually pretty cool, honestly. Yeah.
All right.
Cooler than what we got.
I know, they just straight up ignored it. In, the 2000. Yeah. Another thing I love about the Battle of Coruscant scene is that you can tell that there's clearly a much larger battle than what is being shown going on throughout. Like, there's a bunch of ships that you just are completely unrelated to what we see, but you just sort of like see them in the background,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just appreciate the scale of this.
Yeah, clearly a lot of attention was paid to the production. I wrote here, did Hayden Christensen take acting classes? Because he has significantly improved since Attack of the Clones.
I know, this is easily him at his best. Like, I mean, he's only been in 2 movies, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, he is like miles better than Attack of the Clones.
Definitely, yeah.
And another note I have here is that a quote to perfectly summarize like what you're getting into with this movie is, this is where the fun begins, because this is just sort of like, we got past the like 2 worst ones in the like original 6, and now we can finally move on to like the really good movies.
Yeah. So, yeah, especially if you're watching chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Anakin and Obi-Wan are trying to get to the Chancellor to rescue him from Grievous's ship, the Malevolence. No, wait, that's not the Malevolence. That was Clone Wars stuff. I don't remember what Grievous's ship in this one is called, but yeah. So Anakin, I have a note here. Anakin is still a very good person at the start of this, because Anakin, instead of helping Obi-Wan rescue the Chancellor, he wants to help the clones out. He wants to help the clones take out like some droid starfighters. So he's still thinking of other people in the beginning of this movie. And like, assuming it takes place over like a few days, right? He falls to the dark side really fast. Like he goes from like really thinking of other people before himself to like killing and murdering like without hesitation.
I mean, to be fair, there were sort of hints at it, like,
yeah,
like,
for sure,
the Sand People and all that. So like it's not really sudden, but he was still very clearly like on the right path at the beginning, and then little by little you sort of see him.
Yeah. So, and before they get to the ship, Anakin and Obi-Wan encounter some buzz droids, which I wrote down are super efficient. Like unless you have someone to help you out, buzz droids like could devastate a ship. Like, buzz droids are super efficient, and they could have accomplished a lot more in this story, but
I feel like if the one buzz droid hadn't just gotten in front of R2, then
it
would have been perfectly fine. But it just stayed on the other wing. It probably could have taken out Anakin right there.
Definitely, yeah. So Anakin and Obi-Wan, they land in the ship. They land in Grievous' ship. And I wrote down, so as soon as they jump out, Obi-Wan says, I have a bad feeling about this, which we haven't been tracking. We haven't been mentioning those in our last few reviews. But I think this is...
very common recurring phrase.
Yeah. So I wonder if this or the Phantom Menaces are the earliest I have a bad feeling about this in Star Wars. Because Phantom Menaces happens in one of the first scenes with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. And I'm wondering if this is before that, because this happened 7 minutes in. So I wonder if Phantom Menaces happened beforehand. But it seems that George Lucas kind of wants to just get the iconic lines out of the way so we can shove in some more of his world-famous witty dialogue.
I'm not going to lie, the witty dialogue is excellent, especially in this first scene.
It's better. It's much better in this movie.
Every single one of the meme quotes, I always chuckle whenever one of them comes up, and that's why part of this movie has just been eternally for me because of the internet.
Yeah.
They're every 2 minutes you just hear me chuckle, and my sister would just tell me to shut up mid-movie. But anyway, they land and they just take out a bunch of battle droids, and what I love is just I love the fact that the regular battle droids are just just sort of there to be cut down throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
They just never pose a threat.
Never, yeah. Well, I mean, one battle droid wasn't even hit. He just fell over. I noticed that, and I wrote it down, because, they're killing all these battle droids, and one of them in the back, he just falls over. He just collapses. Yeah. So one VFX artist was not paying enough attention. But, yeah.
After that, we finally get a scene with a first live-action Grievous.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that the theme for him, the Grievous theme, is outstanding. Love it. It's one of my favorite, tracks. I think Revenge of the Sith, that's the best soundtrack out of the movies, but that's just me.
Yeah. I agree. I wrote down, I don't care what people say about Grievous. He's awesome, and his music is too. The music is so good. In this one, there's so many themes that you can just automatically think of. Anakin and Obi-Wan dueling, Duel of the Heroes, Anakin marching the clones across the temple, Grievous. There's so many great themes here, and I think it the soundtrack, especially in this movie, doesn't get enough credit. Yeah. Half of this next page is just quotes. I just wrote down quotes because there's so much. There's so much good stuff.
I know that if I just went down and wrote each one, my page size would triple. So that's why I wrote that one thing at the beginning that I just laughed every single time I found. I was laughing every 30 seconds. Yeah. That there was a quote.
Yeah.
But yeah, my brother and I once tried to keep track of all of them, and we before the Battle of Coruscant was over, we had already lost track of where we were.
So R2 remains in the hangar, and some super battle droids come over to him. And this is a very minor gripe I have here, but the super battle droids have high voices here. They have regular battle droid voices, and in the Clone Wars, they are they speak deeply, they speak differently. Why? Who cares? Why does there have to be a difference? I don't understand, but I wrote it down because it was just an interesting little observation.
Another thing I wrote down somewhere on this point was that this movie has much more of a comedic introduction than kind of any of the other movies.
Yeah,
it sort of stands out. The beginning sequence is a lot funnier, despite the clones dying off in space.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But this movie is a lot funnier than the other ones, even without the memes and whatnot about it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, there are plenty of memes, but yeah. So one of the quotes I wrote down. So like all the quotes I wrote down because they're either good, like genuinely good lines, or they're funny for whatever reason. One of them that I wrote down here is when Anakin and Obi-Wan are in the elevator, and Anakin cuts a hole in the ceiling, jumps up right before the elevator falls. He's hanging onto a ledge, and two battle droids come up and they say, "Hands up, Jedi!" Even though he is hanging by his hands. If he puts his hands up, he will fall and he will die. Maybe that's what they want.
Another one I love is just it's Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then all of a sudden the elevator stops, and you just hear, I think it's Obi-Wan says, "Did you hit the stop button?" And then Anakin replies with, "No, did you?" And then, it might have been the other way around, but it's just it feels out of place compared to the original ones, but it works so well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's perfect.
And when Anakin drops down into the elevator, again, we get the weirdest delivery of a line by Ewan McGregor, I think. He looks around, so like he activates his lightsaber, then looks at Anakin, he's like, "Oh, it's you." But it's just delivered in such a strange way. It's like he didn't expect Anakin to like be there at all. He's like, "Oh, it's you." He didn't expect him to be there at all.
Like anybody else was going to be jumping down the elevator.
Oh, it's you. Yeah.
But yeah, all right, so they make it all the way to sort of like I want to call it the throne room, because it's not exactly a throne, but I mean, like,
there's definitely a throne in there. That's 100% a throne.
It looks very similar to the like throne room.
Yeah.
I like the sort of the nod to Attack of the Clones, where Obi-Wan says, "This time we'll do it together," and then Anakin, instead of charging, says, "I was just about to say that," because Obi-Wan said the same thing in Attack of the Clones. Anakin just goes, "I'm taking it now."
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, we all know how that ends.
So when Dooku first appears, he sort of does like a flip off the balcony. Even though he could have just walked down the stairs, I feel like it was, and like that was CGI. It was 100% CGI.
Oh, there's no way that Christopher.
Oh no way! Why did Dooku have to do that? Why did he have to show off? I don't know.
I've never questioned that. It just always seemed so natural.
Yeah, I know, right? And then Palpatine is like, "Oh, you guys can't handle him. He's a Sith Lord." And then Obi-Wan turns around and is like, "Chancellor Palpatine, Sith Lords are our speciality." It's such an unintentionally funny line. I guarantee you, George Lucas did not intend that to be funny.
I don't think that they. When you think about it, the only Sith they've beaten is Maul.
Yeah. And
lost like countless Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that this statement is a good one, but whatever.
Definitely not. One line before the fighting starts. So Anakin says, "My powers have doubled since the last time we fought, Count." And Dooku says, "Twice the pride, double the fall," which is a fantastic line, like a genuinely great line. I really like it.
It is a good line, yeah. But I write cryptically sometimes. But one of the things I had down was I love Dooku's fighting style, where he just fights with like almost effortlessly, fighting off two like trained Jedi. I feel like it's very fitting for like the very civilized type of guy he is.
Exactly.
Makes him very fun to play in Battlefront 2, but that's it. But yeah, so do you have any notes about the fight? Or?
Yeah, so during the battle, Obi-Wan gets thrown aside like a bitch twice. Like it's nothing. I mean, like, come on. How old is he? Like 30-something? He should definitely not be able to have that done to him. But when Anakin attacks Dooku, Palpatine just goes, "Yeah." Why? Why does he do that? I don't know why. He's just very excited about how that battle's going, I guess. And so Anakin ends up capturing Dooku, cutting off his hands, and taking Dooku's lightsaber and his own. And I wrote here, Christopher Lee is really good. His facial expressions in this sequence are awesome. And so Anakin on Palpatine's insistence, do it. Um, so Anakin executes Dooku, which I think is like probably the most graphic decapitation in Star Wars, because we see his head roll away afterwards, even though it's not in the foreground.
Not only that, but I noticed this for the first time ever when I watched it this time, was you still see his hands cut off on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had never noticed that, but this time I thought to look for it, and I was like, oh my god, they are there.
Yeah, it's definitely more graphic than I think people remember.
But this movie I think pays more attention to that sort of detail. Like earlier when the clones get the Arc 170 gets blasted, you can see like a cloned body flying off into space and stuff, and it's like, so there's definitely more attention to detail,
sure.
Graphic detail in this one.
Yeah. Do you have any more notes before they go and meet Grievous?
Before what?
Before they go and meet Grievous? Yeah.
I have one thing. The subtitles always say, when Palpatine mentions the Sand People, the subtitles always say that they're like Sand People shouting. I've never heard that. I've listened for it so many times. I've never heard it. They're supposed to be like distant Sand People noises. I've never heard them. I don't know. Maybe, like, my hearing isn't the best, but I've heard. Yeah. All right. I don't have anything else for the Dooku scene.
So the Jedi, they take Palpatine and they end up getting captured by Grievous. And I wrote down here, does Grievous have an accent? And if so, what is it? Because he sort of speaks like this. And it's like, because I know he's not human, obviously, but does he have, like, is that his specific accent? Is it like the mechanics making the accent? I don't know, and I kind of want to. But yeah. Another
thing I love is I've never bothered to check on this, but I've heard that obviously Anakin says to Grievous, General Grievous, you're shorter than I expected. And I was thinking, well, like, and I remember I was talking to somebody, I forget who, and so I'm not sure how true this is because I've never bothered to check for myself, and I never looked it up after. Yeah. But I was like, are you telling me that, like, throughout the entirety of the Clone Wars show, Anakin and Grievous never have, like, face to face? And, like, they told me, no, they never meet, and I was like, wow, that's actually some kind of, like, that's, like, incredible.
Yeah.
Because it seems so natural. You're like, well, yeah, of course they met during the Clone Wars. Like, they're two of the biggest players, of course. But no, I guess not.
It's great. It's
always a weird thing.
It's great continuity for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
Solo could learn.
There's a bit here in this sequence where a battle droid sasses Grievous, and I want to know the extent of battle droid sentience. How much intelligence do they have? Like, how alive are they?
I think they're very basic AI, so they're alive. They're probably just very stupid, and they
definitely.
Because like you see them in the Clone Wars, and they have like some kind of each one has like some kind of personality, sort of. So I think they can be classified as alive. They're just like next to brainless. So
that's fair. Yeah.
Anyway, so what is right? Oh, wait, I had a couple notes before they make Grievous. So the ship starts like going downward for a bit, right? Yeah. So gravity of the ship changes with it, and that kind of screwed me because it means that the ship doesn't have its own gravity. It's using like the gravity of the planet or something to.
Yeah.
Because otherwise everything would just stay the same. It wouldn't matter which direction it's going. So I thought that was a rather interesting observation. And I also noted that R2 can move a lot faster than I thought he could when he comes out into the hallway.
That's fair.
That's it. That's all I have for now.
Yeah. So Grievous and Obi-Wan and Anakin, they have a little fight. There's some Magna Guard action in there. It's pretty cool.
Magna Guards are cool as hell.
So cool. And so Grievous ends up escaping by blasting out the windows and escaping in an escape pod to fight another day. And Obi-Wan and Anakin take the Chancellor and end up piloting the ship down to Coruscant.
Crashing the ship.
Crashing the ship. Yes. That's a more accurate...
And throughout that entire sequence, if you just look at Palpatine, he looks so lost. He looks like completely lost. It's just funny to watch.
That's true. I wrote. They're really lucky no one was on this giant landing strip. Like, no one was there.
Dude, the other thing I wrote was the first word is in all caps. Just fuck that. Like, I assume you don't have to talk about
yeah.
There were probably people in there.
Oh yeah, they just annihilated. They're all dead.
Like, yeah.
That tower is destroyed.
Oh my god! But it's okay. Our 3 heroes got out safe and sound.
It's true, yeah, and that's what matters.
That's what matters. Screw the entirety of that tower.
Yeah. I wrote another quote here. Not to worry, we are still flying half a ship.
Yeah.
And of course, the iconic "Another Happy Landing."
Mm-hmm. For fun fact, I say that every single time a plane lands when I go on a trip.
What? We are still flying half a ship, or another happy landing?
I hope I never have to use that first one. That and blast is why I hate flying are the two things.
Oh yeah.
Say on a plane very frequently if you ever fly with me.
That's fair.
All right, so they get down. Anakin and Obi-Wan have a little interaction, and when their shuttle lands, you can actually see the Millennium Falcon.
I wrote that down too. Like Millennium Falcon in parentheses or similar ship cameo.
I think it was confirmed that is in fact.
Oh really?
The Millennium Falcon.
Interesting. Yeah. So would Lando have had it by then, or someone else?
Yeah, which makes me wonder what happened. Like the escape pod isn't on it when it's in there, so.
Yeah, who knows?
So, let's see here.
Oh, so when they meet the delegation, like Mace Windu and all of the senators, there are 3 protocol droids there. What do they need 3 for? 3 seems like overkill.
Dude, each senator probably has their own. In that same scene, though, there's a green screen behind Samuel L. Jackson, and it is
really
quite awful. Like, I hardly ever point down like technical notes unless they're like good, but this
yeah.
Wait, so Anakin gets.
Before we do that, I have a cameo catch, which I do these in movie reviews. So Katie Lucas, one of George Lucas's daughters, who has cameoed in all of the Star Wars movies so far, she cameos as Chi Ikwe Papanoida. The daughter of Baron Papanoida, who's played by George Lucas himself later on.
Yep.
So she first appears in this sequence. She's also in the opera scene alongside her father playing Baron Papanoida. But I just thought I would mention her here before I mention George Lucas later on.
Anyway, so Anakin gets pulled aside and he talks to Padme a bit about their brand new child.
How do they live together secretly?
Exactly.
The logistics are
I have that as a later note. Where does Anakin say he sleeps when he's staying with? Like, I assume the Jedi sleep in the temple.
Yeah.
So like nobody wonders why he's not there. Like, what's his cover? And then speaking of cover stories. Who did Padme say was the father of this child?
Yeah.
Officially? Like, did she just... Like, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was.
I'm sorry, I sleep with so many men.
I feel like there's no good cover story for it. Like,
No, definitely not. Also, she tells him she's pregnant, and she gives birth in like 2 days. Why didn't she tell him that beforehand?
Yeah. See, I I always get confused at the passage of time in these movies.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell if like this movie takes place over the course of weeks or if it's actually just like a couple days. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a toughie for me. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there a scene before Grievous arrives on Utapau? Because I don't have any. If there is, I don't have any notes for that scene.
I don't think there is, because my next note is just choirs, and I was just trying to remember what that was for, and now I realize it's when Grievous like lands on Utapau.
Yes,
like
the music
there's a song where like the choir is incredible. Like,
yeah,
throughout all the music, the choir is incredible.
Yeah, for sure. That's the only note I have for that scene, but that the music's great.
Yeah, no, and then we go back to an Anakin and Padme scene.
Yeah,
and there is, in my opinion, the worst bit of dialogue in the entire prequel.
I think I have the same one written down.
How does it start off? It's like what is it?
No.
You're okay. I think it starts off. You're so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then she responds with, "It's only because I'm so in love." And he responds, "No, it's because I'm so in love with you." And her immediate response is like a very like aggressive. "So love has blinded you?" And
Oh man.
And then he just goes, "No, that's not what I meant." So she says, "But it's probably true." And that's such a bad. That should have just been cut. There's no way to salvage that.
Yeah, there's just Padme's character in this movie is basically just the wife. That's her whole role here.
Yeah, I was about to say her character for like her existence in this movie is just sort of to move Anakin like along.
Yeah.
She's like a catalyst for him turning to the dark.
Yeah. And
I also haven't talked here about Hayden Christensen's acting being better, but we already covered that.
That's fair. Anakin and Padme were being very public on the balcony. Like everyone could see that. Like they're not even trying to hide themselves there.
Dude, the fact that he sleeps with physically sleeps with her, I'm assuming most of the time he's on Coruscant.
Yeah.
Like it's a miracle that this isn't just public knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
this would have made it in a tabloid. So
yeah,
I don't know what you say.
Well, I have a note later on that I'll just mention now that Yoda, because Yoda mentioned something about fearing to lose someone to Anakin, so I feel like Yoda knows. I feel like Yoda's smart enough to know.
And Obi-Wan, definitely.
Oh, Obi-Wan knows. And Mace Windu might know, but, yeah.
Palpatine, I'd say also. No.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because he's been keeping watch on Anakin for, 10 years.
Okay, and then after that we have the iconic "You are on the council, but we do not grant you the rank of master" scene.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here and I'm wondering, technically is he not a master since he trained Ahsoka? But
George Lucas hadn't thought of Ahsoka by the time this movie premiered.
I'm well aware of that. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah.
To watch it chronological order, it makes less sense.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Maybe. I mean, I figure the explanation for it is he was an exception, but
yeah. I just want to bring up here that Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Jedi Master with the gigantic friggin' forehead, he had 7 wives because it was a part of his culture.
I think he's the only Jedi, or one of the only ones that's allowed to actually have sex in order to keep his species going.
Yeah. So I mean, sweet deal for him, right? But
you get all of the benefits of being a Jedi with none of the downsides.
It's true.
Anakin won one wife, and that's a big no-no.
Yeah. So are we
Let's
on
see.
the scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan?
Yes. And I don't. Obi-Wan mentions, like, he's the one that describes to Anakin, like, his mission in spying on the Chancellor and that they don't trust the Chancellor. And his explanation for the Council not explaining this to Anakin was that they don't want it to be on the record. And so I'm wondering who keeps a record of the Jedi Council meetings.
Maybe like Yoda just remembers everything.
It's his idea.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
I don't get it. I just yeah.
Obi-Wan in this scene also mentions Quinlan Vos. Master Vos moves his troops to Boz Pity. Vos is in, I believe he cameoed in episode 2. He had a cameo there, but he is a major player in some Clone Wars arcs, and he has a romance with Asajj Ventress later on in the expanded
universe. I heard
universe.
about that, actually. Yeah, I was wondering if that was still canon.
It is still canon. It's very interesting. Yeah. And then we have a scene with Anakin and Palpatine.
And Palpatine in the opera.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, you have Lucas and his
daughter. No. Opera isn't until later.
Oh.
Yeah.
My next note is for the opera.
Oh, really? Really? Okay, so I have some notes for scenes before then. So we get Palpatine. So Palpatine asks Anakin to spy on the Jedi Council for him. We have to get that scene. And so I just found it funny that Anakin walks into the Chancellor's office, and then Palpatine is like, "Oh, Anakin, it's good to see you." And then we cut, and then Palpatine starts talking to him, but they cut to like the other end of the room. So did they start walking all the way to the other end of the room just in silence, and then he started talking right as they reached the end? These are the things that I want to know. And so these are some good short scenes, I think, like with Obi-Wan and then with Palpatine. And then we get the Jedi Council scene right before the opera, which is never mind. There's one more scene after this. There are a lot of like tiny scenes that people forget about here. So we have a scene at the council, and I wonder, why is Obi-Wan sitting on the council? Is he just there in like an advisory position, or is he actually on the Jedi Council?
I think Obi-Wan's on the council.
Interesting. I mean, that must have happened during the Clone Wars sometime, because
probably, yeah. I can't imagine he was. I don't know if he was on it in episode 2.
I don't think so, because I think he was still busy training Anakin then.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
There's this is like a smaller meme, but holographic Kayati-Mundi goes, "What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?"
Yep.
That's a good one. And then
that's a great one.
And then Yoda says,
"Good relations with the Wookiees."
Yes,
I have.
I wrote that. It just reminded me. I don't know why. It reminded me of our President Donald Trump saying, "I have good relations with the blacks." And it didn't no context, just the good relations part. It just
yeah, you might not want to take that comparison out of context. I'm just saying.
Please don't take that out of context.
That's a very bad comparison.
It's not a comparison. It was a reminder. Don't attack me. But
I believe I'm gonna have to single host this after you get banned.
in this scene, Mace Windu mentions that the Jedi's allegiance is to the Senate. Since when? I thought they worked with the Senate, not for the Senate. Yeah,
I didn't really understand. I didn't have a note about it here. I have a note about something similar later on. I forget exactly what. Yeah, no, I don't get it.
Yeah. I also wrote that Obi-Wan is being very smart here, in that I don't remember why, but Obi-Wan's being smart in this scene. Obi-Wan is probably one of the more consistently smarter characters in this movie, more consistently sensible, I should say. A few more notes before the opera. I really noticed Yoda's CGI hair in this scene. Just that white with those white wispy locks just really stood out to me in this scene for absolutely no reason. But one quote from this scene that I thought was really good was, "This war represents a failure to listen," which is so true on so many levels, and I just think it's very interesting. Then there's a brief Anakin and Padme scene, which doesn't have any bearing on the plot whatsoever. But
wait, isn't that where he has like his dream for the first time or something?
Maybe, and then Padme comes and sees him. Maybe I only have one note for this bit, which is a quote from Padme that says, "Let's raise the baby on Naboo, blah, 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 blah." And then she said, "There will be nothing but our love. No politics, no plotting, no war." When in fact, there will be all of those, because they're still in the middle of a war, because Grievous is not dead yet. So I just thought that was... Padme just probably has the dumbest lines in this movie, for, no other reason. But anyway, we're at the opera scene. One of the best scenes.
First thing I want to point out is, if you pay attention to every single time Palpatine turns his head in this scene, you will notice that it happens so unbelievably often.
Really?
It's like every 3 seconds, you just sort of see him go. It's the most bizarre thing. It's the most bizarre. Nobody should turn their head that much. I don't get it. I get that he's trying to pay attention to the bubble comedy and then like Anakin at the same time.
Bubble comedy. Oh my god.
I heard it referenced like that once, and that's just what I'm calling it.
This scene is the first appearance of the Red Guard, of Palpatine's Red Guard, which I noticed they have replaced the Blue Guards from the previous two movies, which I think is an interesting thing, because in the Clone Wars, I think we see that the Blue Guards are not great at their jobs, and so Palpatine replaces them with more loyal guards, which are the Red Guards, who end up being his personal security detail through
I think
Return of the Jedi.
I think the deal with the like blue ones was that they were just like it was like basically if you were like one of the more uppity folks, you were allowed a position there. But then with the Red Guards, it was like if you were the best, you got to serve for the or something.
Yeah, that's fair. Because I remember an arc from the Clone Wars where one of the Blue Guard commanders betrayed them for Ventress, which was, I think, earlier on. But yeah. So I want to know more about the bubble comedy, as you so graciously put it. Is there a story? I mean, I know it's an opera, but is there a story? What's the appeal? It's so cool. I just want to know more.
I always assumed that it was just almost like a circus show, and they probably have like animals swimming around doing tricks in it or something.
I heard somewhere that it was a Mon Calamari thing. It's Mon Calamari swimming in there. Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, so Palpatine explains the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise to Anakin, and how it is possible to save the ones you love from dying. Anakin, it's not until later that he doesn't question Palpatine Sith.
Sithiness.
But I feel like this is such an obvious red flag.
Yeah.
That a question should at least be asked here, and it's not. Anakin just sort of takes it like, oh, I guess Palpatine's just a very educated dude. He knows these things.
Yeah. So there was a Darth Plagueis novel that sort of explained his whole thing, but that's not canon anymore. So I want to see I want to know what really happened with Plagueis in canon, because we don't know anything about him in canon aside from what Palpatine says here. So I think I wrote here I want a series or a movie or a novel or something that tells us everything about Plagueis, because he's so cool. But anyway, I have some quotes from this scene, some pretty good quotes. Aside from the whole Plagueis the Wise thing, that is a golden speech in and of itself.
That whole thing is a meme.
Yeah. But Palpatine tells Anakin that good is a point of view, which is true. Good is a point of view. I'm sure I mean, I'm pretty sure Palpatine knows that he's evil, but like
Yeah.
in like historically, when people want something, sometimes they want it because they think it's the right thing to do, and I think Anakin. That's what Anakin. No, Anakin's being selfish, but Palpatine is.
I wouldn't call him being selfish. I mean, what he really like wants, like at his bare bone, is to save Padme, at least in the very beginning.
Well, yeah, I know, that's but he's being selfish for her. Like, I mean, he's like killing like all the Jedi for her. That's pretty selfish. Also, Palpatine says to Anakin, "The dark side is a path to some abilities that may seem unnatural," which he repeats in The Rise of Skywalker in his first scene. He says that to Kylo Ren, which I think is quite interesting, and we'll get to that when we watch The Rise of Skywalker, which I'm sure will be a very exciting episode. We might have to split it. We might have to split it.
That movie is the constant references to the prequel.
Yeah, we might have to split all of the sequel reviews into 2 parts because there's just so much to unpack.
We might.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, another thing I pointed out about this, I don't know why I pointed it out at this moment. One of the things I really love about this movie is normally if you, like in just movies in general, you sort of have like a positive character arc. I feel like Han Solo is an example of this, right? He's like the smuggler turned rebel hero.
Yeah.
But then in this movie, or the trilogy, even, you get this like great negative, like, the opposite, right? You see like the fall of somebody who had like so much potential to be great, and who even was like a great person for a long time. But I just find it interesting because it's weird to think that this movie is like, when you think about it, it's a tragedy,
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
It's interesting to think about.
Yeah. Are we ready to move on to the next scene?
Yep.
Fantastic. So we get another Jedi Council. Yeah. So Yoda is communing with the Jedi Council. I want to know how the virtual hologram chairs work in the council. Like what are the proportions? How
does Ki-Adi-Mundi just have an exact replica of the chair?
Yeah. Yeah. There's just a lot to think about there, but we're gonna move past that because we got the Wookiees.
I did a same people thing, but whatever.
I want to know what. God damn it! I want to know what the Separatists are going to gain from Kashyyyk, the Wookiee planet. I want to know what why they're attacking them. Like other than to get Chewbacca in this movie, why else would they be attacking Kashyyyk?
I feel like Kashyyyk probably has some good natural resources.
I guess, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's fair.
If you have Wookiees under your control, like the Empire had Kashyyyk, and they had like a bunch of Wookiee slaves and stuff.
That's true.
And so, they're like, if you want to look at it like that, they're a pretty good source of manual labor.
That's that is also very true. So
after that, there was a scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And this is the last time that they see each other.
Yeah.
Until they fight against each other, which, ever since I figured that out, it has always just like shattered my heart every time I watch this scene. But it's a pretty great scene of like sort of the payoff of all of Obi-Wan's teachings.
Yeah.
And apologizes to him for sort of being I forget what it is he apologized. It's like, I guess being like a regular student or something to take a guess. But then he also shows like gratitude, or no, he apologizes in case he was like sort of a disappointing student, Obi-Wan. Then he shows gratitude towards Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan just tells him that he's proud of him and that he's confident in his abilities, which is, I think that's like a great master and apprentice scene right there.
Yeah, and like another thing to keep in mind is that it's only 50 minutes into the movie. It's like a third of the ways through.
Like, this is the point I was talking about, where at this point, I always think that we're, like, in the final, like, stretch of the movie at this point.
Yeah.
For some reason. Because after this, there's, like, Grievous, there's the March on the Jedi Temple, there's the attack on Palpatine, and then Battle of the Heroes. Which all happens, like, so much faster than you would think.
Exactly, yeah. I think this movie might be the one that moves the fastest out of all three of them.
Oh, yeah. I think so, too. Like, Phantom Menace had, like, almost a breakneck pace, but this one...
Yeah.
This one
so Obi-Wan visits Padme to ask about Anakin twice in this movie. How is this a secret? How? Obi-Wan for sure knows, because why would he visit a senator to ask about his apprentice? It's like, this is before Obi-Wan leaves for Utapau to find General Grievous. We get another cameo when he lands on Utapau. Bruce Spence plays the Utapauan. I don't know how to pronounce that. Chairman Tyon Meaden. Yeah, whatever. So Bruce Spence, for like I don't really know from anything else other than Lord of the Rings. In the Return of the King extended edition, he plays the mouth of Sauron. I don't. Yeah. So he seems to be good at playing like not human parts, like creepy not human parts. But yeah. So he's mouth of Sauron. He cameos here like he's only in this one bit. But yeah, he plays Tyon Meaden. And Obi-Wan does something super smart here. Kudos to Obi-Wan. He lets his ship take off, and the Separatists no doubt believe that he is on it. And so he leaves. The ship leaves to go get the clone reinforcements, and Obi-Wan stays there. And he goes to find General Grievous on Boga, which is the giant lizard thing with the super awesome call.
A ractor or something that.
Yeah. And so he lands in front of right behind Grievous, and he says the line that led.
There's one scene I think in between this where they show Anakin like having another dream, but this time Obi-Wan's in it. And I just wanted to mention that, like, I don't think Anakin ever mentions the fact, or like it seems worried by the fact that Obi-Wan is in this dream of like his wife's childbirth and he isn't.
Yeah.
I feel like that would merit some question. That's just me.
Definitely, yeah.
So now back to the very iconic.
Probably the most iconic meme from this movie. Right?
Arguably, because this movie has a lot of them.
That's true, but like I would take this one. Yeah. Like I would say this one's more popular than The High Ground or some other ones.
I was behind the stage in Dark Road, and I was talking to somebody, and I said, "This is where the fun begins," and then they responded, they're like, "Yeah, oh my God, you're a prequel fan too," and he told me that every now and then he'll just say hello there in the accent and see who gets it. So it's definitely one of the more iconic ones.
For sure.
It's so iconic. But one of my notes is that music that plays like that, like da-da, is now ingrained in my memory, and I can't help but smile every time I hear it because I've heard it in so many memes.
It's true.
But yeah.
So Grievous sends some Magna Guards to fight Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan uses the Force to bring down like some giant weight. I don't really know what the hell that is, but it falls and it crushes most of them. Then one of them gets up, and Obi-Wan just cuts off his head, and then it dies. Even though earlier we saw them fighting without heads.
Yeah, it's like the main thing about Magna Guards.
Exactly.
Their heads are essentially.
Yeah.
But another thing I want to mention, he got into like a full fighting stance and then got out of it immediately just so he could break down the thing on them.
It's true.
After that, Grievous sheds his cape, and I don't know why, but that movement always like gets me. I just enjoy that like thing he does with his shoulders for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. So when did Dooku have time to teach Grievous the Jedi arts? Like that must take so long. When did he have time for that? When he was like running the Separatists and running the Confederacy?
I mean, he was able to teach Savage Press and Ventress as well, so he probably like I don't know. He clearly had some.
It's fair. It's fair.
But plus, like Dooku, I don't know. I mean, he was working in secret for a long time. I don't know how long Grievous has been a key player in all of this, or how long they've been training him.
Yeah.
Some explanation would. I'm not sure if he was in training during episode 2 or what, but
yeah,
whatever.
Who knows?
And Grievous is just such a cool character, but like he's like one of the most badass people in this universe. And I feel like he loses 2 arms way too fast.
That's fair.
It's like almost instant. You see like the 2 arms extend just for like a minute later, they're gone instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little bit disappointing. And aside from that, I just want to say that Grievous is very impressive in the way that he fights, seeing how he is clearly, despite having the 4 arms, I'd say he's at a disadvantage because he just can't force. So it's kind of impressive that he's been able to like kill all these Jedi despite being somewhat handicapped in that sense.
Yeah, that's true. So they have a a little short battle, but then they go into the chase scene. Right before the chase scene, Grievous turns into Spider Grievous for a second, getting over to his roller. I wish we had more of that. Spider Grievous is so cool. I want to see more of Spider Grievous.
Play Battlefront 2 if you want to see more Spider Grievous.
Whoa,
it's one of his it's one of his 3 abilities. It's
excellent.
Really?
Cool.
Yeah.
So I had a note here about the clone troopers in here without their masks are still being played by Tamira Morrison, who played Jango Fett in number 2.
Yeah.
And I wrote here, unfortunately, like his acting is still a little flat. It's still as flat as it was in episode 2, which is unfortunate because D. Bradley Baker in the Clone Wars is so good as the voice of the clones. He's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he probably redeemed this here. But I mean, at least we don't really get to see them as much. They're mainly just Order 66 plot devices. But yeah, so are we ready to get to Palpatine revealing his Sithiness to Anakin?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that was like a brief meeting before that with like a couple of the Jedi, and I think Mace Windu says that if Palpatine doesn't resign he doesn't give up his emergency powers, the Jedi will take control of the Senate.
Is that a thing? I
was just wondering like how they planned on doing that. Are they just going to hold the whole Senate hostage?
Yeah.
I just don't see how they plan on doing that aside, like literally holding hostage.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Palpatine and Anakin have a good conversation. Palpatine reveals himself at this point. Yeah. And he actually raises some pretty good points about the Jedi, which is really weird because in Star Wars there's usually like just this theme of light versus dark. But Palpatine honestly is not all like 100% on this.
Yeah, for sure.
Movie, which I think is what makes him such a like outstanding villain, especially in prequels.
Yeah, definitely. So Anakin pretty much figures it out and then gets out of there to tell the other Jedi.
I also want to say that Palpatine's like little smile is excellent. I don't know if you know the one the like specific one I'm talking where he's just like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like the
I
picture
can't
that
make
everyone
it.
uses for Palpatine in this movie.
Exactly.
Um, so we go back to Utapau, where we get an extension of the Obi-Wan and Grievous chase, and I really like the chase. The CGI, it's really good, and it culminates in this hand-to-hand combat, Obi-Wan Grievous. We never see hand-to-hand combat in Star Wars. So this
is very, very...
Yeah, so this was great. And then Obi-Wan takes a blaster, pew pew, shoots Grievous in the heart. And Grievous...
Yeah, I just want to say that Grievous should definitely have more chest armor than he actually does.
Yeah.
Like, I get that would slow him down a little bit, but that's
Obi-Wan was able to, like, rip the stuff open so easily.
Easily.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like Grievous isn't like a tank sort of thing, because Obi-Wan kicks him and then, like, screams out in pain immediately after, which I find to be... Yeah, I know it's not supposed to be, but I find that to be a funny scene. Maybe just because I saw the MGM logo with Obi-Wan's face instead of the lion roaring, but whatever.
Yeah. Grievous, like, burning up, he looks pretty cool, but it also looks kind of fake. That was my big problem with that bit. Like, it was cool, but they tried to make it look a little too cool, so it looked a little... just looked a little, yeah.
After that, Anakin talks with Mace Windu about confronting Palpatine. And when Windu gets in the gunship, the other 3 Jedi he confronts Palpatine with are already in there. And he never, like, told them, all right, guys, let's go take out the Chancellor or anything. They were already in there. So now I'm just wondering if he just saw them there and was, like, by chance, and was just like, oh, you guys want to come with me? I'm on my way to take out the Chancellor.
you might die, but, you know.
Anakin had just told him that information. Yeah. And we see him throughout the whole time. At no point did he suggest that they were going to start an attack on him. He just gets into the gunship with the 3 members, and that's that.
It couldn't have been planned before. Yeah.
Literally no opportunity to be planned.
So Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, CC Tin, and Eth Koth go in to arrest Palpatine, and they
right before there's this scene where Anakin and Padme just sort of have, like, this sort of connection. Like, I don't know, that just reminds me of, like, the same sort of connection that, like, Luke and Leia, or, you know, Rey and Kylo Ren have, or, like, they can sense each other from, like, far away. And that scene, I don't know, I find it to be, like, somewhat of a touching scene, but in that scene, I noticed for the first time this time, Palpatine, like, speaks to Anakin, like, from far away or whatever he's forced. And I don't know why I noticed that before, but he doesn't. It relates back to one of my notes in a few seconds.
All right, cool. So the Jedi Masters come in, and they seem intent on giving Palpatine a trial. But they're also they're also
straight up says the Senate will decide your fate.
They're also pretty ready to get violent too. So mixed messages there, Windu. So the Senate will decide your fate.
It had to be ready to get violent.
Of course, yeah. And what is Palpatine's response to the Senate will decide his fate?
It's treason. Then
no, he says, "I am the Senate." You missed it. You missed like.
I know this by heart. I jumped the gun. I know. I genuinely know this by heart. I just want to point that out. It's also like 9 o'clock in my defense, which isn't that late. But you know what? Shut up.
It's fair. I have a little tidbit about the treason line, though. It's treason then. In the Clone Wars, Jedi Master Pong Krell also says it when Captain Rex relieves him of duty, which I think was interesting because technically, chronologically, that's first. So I just think that's a cool little tidbit about that. Yeah, and so Palpatine like jumps at like spins at the Jedi, and his primal scream.
His shriek. I don't understand what that is. Like at all. We never hear that sound come from him again.
Yeah.
I don't get it. What the hell was that? I genuinely want to know how they like made that noise, because there's no way that Ian McDiarmid just like made that on his own. And then he just killed 3 Jedi in like 15 seconds.
I know. I said trained Jedi masters take it out like bitches. Like, come on, guys.
Dude, Stacey Tin and Eve Koth just gone.
Yeah.
Kid Fisto puts up minimal struggling, which sucks because Kid Fisto is one of the cooler.
It's true.
Like Clone Wars era Jedi. And then Mace Windu is basically left on his own to fight Palpatine, and the like facial expressions that Ian McDiarmid and Samuel L. Jackson make in that fight scene are hilarious. They're so funny.
I wrote for this bit, like, Windu does kind of get murdery here. Like,
oh, definitely.
Like Anakin's like, oh, we got to give him a trial, and like Mace Windu like is going directly against what he said 2 minutes ago. So I mean, like he, like I'm not saying Anakin is justified in cutting off his hands, but you know, he was, you know, not doing what the Jedi, like what a Jedi would do.
In Mace Windu's defense, Palpatine showed like no signs of like he's the one that like started the first attack, and like Mace Windu had just watched 3 of his comrades get killed.
Yeah.
Earlier.
That's true.
But anyway, there's this one part where Palpatine like does a little Yoda jump off of like his desk.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just struck me as a little weird. Because Yoda does it because he's small. He needs to jump up at it like at night. But last I checked, Palpatine ain't exactly like. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. And then there's I don't know. I heard. I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that Palpatine intentionally loses the fight in order to get Anakin to turn on, to sort of make himself the victim and then get Anakin to turn on Mace Windu to save him? Or
yes, because when Anakin comes in, Palpatine's like, oh, Anakin, I'm so weak, I'm going to die. So yes, that was 100% plan. Yes, that was 100% plan, and Palpatine is probably the most manipulative and cunning character in the entire Star Wars saga.
I would say by.
Yeah. And so,
then,
yeah.
There's a great bit of dialogue where Mace Windu says, "You have lost," and Palpatine's response is just, No, you will die."
It's so good.
Which is not a very good response to what Mace Windu just said.
Yeah.
But, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And so Anakin begs for Mace Windu to calm down, cuts off Mace Windu's arm, and Palpatine electrocutes the shit out of him after, and sends Mace Windu out the Mace window.
Do you think he could still be alive? Do you think it's possible?
I mean, if Palpatine can survive that reactor explosion, then it really isn't possible. I mean, it's okay. They have force here. They have Rayon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Amazing.
That's very fair. We get probably the best sequence in the movie next.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Palpatine making Anakin, like, the best, not the best scene. So like not like the best individual scene, but the best sequence. Being like a bunch of interconnected scenes, like the way the scenes are arranged. Because we get Palpatine making Anakin his apprentice, dubbing him Darth Vader, and then we get Anakin marching with the clones, and then Order 66. And I think it's probably the best consistently placed sequence in the movie because it's just devastating. It's such a turn, and the clones betray the Jedi, and it's just like I'm sure it was a massive twist when the movie came out. But yeah.
Another thing I want to say is I forget if it's a theory, if it's confirmed, if it's just not canon anymore, like what it is. But I think it was something like Palpatine's like true form is like whatever you see, like in the like shriveled up version, and that he was actually using the Force to like create an illusion around himself. And so the Force lightning that got reflected like back at him sort of wore off that illusion, something like that.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know how true that is.
Yeah.
And then when Palpatine names him Darth Vader, you hear the Imperial March in the background. Yes. That's pretty neat. And I also have to say that the Jedi Temple March is my favorite, or one of them, because another beautiful song that comes later is also one. But the Jedi Temple March is like one of the best things I've ever heard in a movie. And just like you said, like the betrayal and the music and like just the scenes followed one after another are all like really, really well done to make this sort of heartbreaking scene. And
did Palpatine contact each clone commander individually? Like, how did he do that? Because like there are a lot of them.
See, at first I assumed that it was like a mass message that he sent out to all of them.
Yeah. But then he says to Commander Cody, he says, Commander Cody, execute Order 66.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I guess my theory doesn't hold. Dude, he must have sent it out to each one. And, oh my god. Palpatine just sitting there for 2 hours.
That's
anyway, fun fact, if you played the original Battlefront 2 video game, you will know that Commander Bly and all of his clones felt a lot of remorse when killing Isla Secura, which is why they shot her so many times, so that she wouldn't feel so much pain as she died.
Yeah.
And then I also feel like Plo Koon is very unfortunate because he got caught off guard while he was in a ship. So
yeah,
his odds of survival weren't exactly the best.
I wrote that there are some fantastic visuals in this sequence because we see so many different planets and the design of all of them is so cool and it's so good. It's so well done. Also, so Anakin, also in the sequence, Anakin murders the younglings. And why not, because we see in the future animated series, the Sith, they use Inquisitors, who are trained in the Jedi arts, and some of them are fallen Jedi. I want to know, why don't they just keep the younglings? The younglings are young enough and impressionable enough to teach them a new, ideology. Why not convert them to, dark side agents?
Maybe Inquisitors just didn't come along until later.
Yeah, I know, but, it would have been in
their... Maybe not that far ahead yet.
Yeah, I know, but, it would have been in their best interests, Palpatine's best interest to, save the younglings, make them into, evil people. It would have just...
I mean, maybe he just... I feel like between, engineering an entire civil war, he sort of had his hands full, but that's just...
That's fair.
Plus, he was busy contacting each clone.
That's true. For 2 hours.
After that, we see perhaps the best cameo in all of these movies as George Lucas's son comes out as a Jedi, or as a Padawan or youngling or something, takes out a couple of clone troopers, and gets gunned down. I'm trying to figure out George Lucas approaching his son, saying, hey, do you want to be a cool Jedi in my new movie? And the son, probably all excited. He's like, yeah. And he's like, all right, now you're going to get shot to bits by this clone over here. It's his own son.
He was in...
the kid mother think of that scene.
He was in the second one, too. He was in Attack of the Clones. He had a cameo there as well, as the same character.
Think about it. Like, imagine you're the poor kid's mother and you're watching that. Like, your husband's like, "Oh, here comes our son. Here comes our son." And then you see him, he just dies right in front of you. Like, that's terrible. That's wrong.
George, I want a divorce.
Like, seriously, what the hell? Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's like an actual, like, it's a cameo, too. Like, you could have easily written it, like, it doesn't affect anything. You could have written it so he survives. I don't get why he had to die.
This
all right,
scene, so this scene is actually told from the perspective of Bail Organa, which I would have liked to see more of him. I really like the character, and I just want to see more of him, just in general.
I also think Jimmy Smits does an excellent job.
He does. He really does.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
And I never realized until I watched it this time, just like how he becomes like sort of like a key player in like the last couple of scenes. Like he helps Obi-Wan and Yoda and all that. All right. So after that, we see a brief scene where Yoda says goodbye to Tarful and Chewie. Yeah. But there were some clones looking around, and they were checking Wookiees, and they're like, "All right, these ones are all dead." So did they just start going around like killing all the Wookiees?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, why? I thought Order 66 was like just against the Jedi. I don't see why they would.
Well, if the Wookiees were defending the Jedi, then just gotta kill them, I guess.
Yeah.
Although I wrote down the line where they said all the Wookiees are dead, but I wrote it down because Tamira Morrison said it in his New Zealand accent, so it sounds like all these Wookiees are dead. They did.
After that, Anakin goes to Mustafar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Just a fun. Yep.
I want to know. So when Anakin's riding in, before we even get to him landing, I want to know why. Like, what are the Mustafarians? What do they do with the lava? Like,
dude, I don't know.
Like, there's just
you can see two different types of Mustafarians.
You can really?
See the northern one, the guys on like the giant like flea-looking things.
Yeah, the lava fleas.
And then southern Mustafarians are the ones collecting like lava in the rivers and all that.
Very interesting.
So it's a fun little tidbit.
Yeah. Then we get Palpatine dissolving the Senate and forming the first Galactic Empire. And why are the senators from Naboo and Alderaan in the same Senate pod? Organa and Amidala. That's an incredibly minor gripe, but I just felt like it was worth mentioning. Padme has a line.
Fair.
Yeah. Padme has an iconic line here. So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. Which it was an okay delivery. Anyway, continue.
During the Phantom Menace, when I was watching it with my family, my mother kept anticipating that line during one of the Senate scenes, and she was like, "Oh, get ready, guys! A real good line comes up ahead." And I was like, "Ma, are you thinking of the?" I was like, "Which one are you thinking of?" And then she quotes Padme's line here, and I was like, "Ma, that's in episode 3." She seemed so disappointed.
Yeah.
Just a little short story there.
Yeah. So this next bit, I don't know if I heard this from you.
Wait, are you done on Mustafar or?
No, I'm on Obi-Wan and Yoda.
Okay, but I have one more.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Palpatine tells the separatists gathered on Mustafar that Darth Vader will take care of them. I even quoted that straight from them. What did they think that meant? I feel like there's only so many ways to interpret that.
Yeah, they're just
I don't know. I
idiots.
feel like at that point we're just gonna get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, Obi-Wan and Yoda are at the Jedi Temple, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And so they recode the message in order to tell all the Jedi to stay away. Yeah.
So there's this thing that Ewan McGregor does with his lightsaber, and I'm sort of convinced that that's an actor's choice. It's the thing he does where he twirls it in his hand.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm convinced that's something that he chose to do, because I can't imagine that George Lucas or somebody saying, "All right, now twirl your lightsaber again, just for the effect." But yeah, that's all I really wanted to point out. You see him do it pretty often, which is, I just assume that that's something he likes to do with the lightsaber.
Yeah, fair. So after Obi-Wan finds security footage of Anakin doing stuff, he goes to Padme, and he tells her all the atrocities Anakin has done. And I think I heard this from you. Not sure who I heard it from, but when he says, "I saw him," covers his mouth, killing younglings. I'm pretty sure he covered his mouth because he was laughing.
Yeah. Apparently he couldn't say the line without at least like smiling or something.
Yeah.
And so in the end, they just figured it would be best if he covers his mouth, which I find hilarious because we look back at that now and it's a meme, right? The younglings are a meme, but freaking, it wasn't at the time.
Yeah.
So he just found that funny. But before that scene, I just wanted to point out, you see Anakin kill like all the separatists, and then you see him like stare at the camera, sort of. And behind him, you just see Wat Tambor completely like cornered.
Yeah.
It felt so bad because there's just nothing he can do.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Obi-Wan and Padme talk, and I just found it. They both care about Anakin, but Obi-Wan sort of sees what has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Padme, like Obi-Wan wants to like help Anakin by sort of like beating, yes.
Yeah.
Or even just like he realized like sort of like almost euthanasia, I guess. But then Padme cares about him, and it's because of that she doesn't want him to do that. So it's weird to see two people care about the same person in different ways. Just a little thing.
Yeah.
And then, what is it? And then, so they go to Mustafar to follow Anakin.
Yeah, well, so I have Padme specifically found Anakin in almost his exact spot on that giant-ass planet. Excuse me, how?
I can't imagine that there are too many. My excuse is that I can't imagine there are too many places to land on.
That's true.
Mustafar. So that's just what I'm going with. Either that or they just cut out the parts where they tried like 30 ports.
True. That's fair.
Another thing is you see 3PO like piloting the ship.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had the like physical capabilities to be able to pilot the ship, but
yeah, I mean, like his arms are always like that, right?
They're like stiff. I can't imagine that he steers that well. I can't imagine that I don't even think he can grab onto anything.
That's true. Yeah, because they're like that. It's like it's like a square.
Connect his index and his make sure that he can't grab.
Yeah.
I don't know how is 3PO flying ship. Get it. They could have had me fly, and I would totally believe it.
It's fair.
And so they go down, and Anakin and Padme have their, like, "you're breaking my heart" scene.
Yeah.
Anakin, only my new powers can save you. And, I don't know, just a little game I decided to play this time was try to figure out where Anakin notices Obi-Wan standing there.
Yeah.
Because you never see Obi-Wan walk out. So it's fun to just, at, like, different points in the scene, just be like, oh, does he notice him now? And, like, see just how that affects your interpretation of the scene, but
yeah,
I don't know if you want to play it.
Yeah.
And then after that, Obi-Wan and Anakin have like this excellent dialogue that is, I think, my favorite scene in the whole film.
Mm-hmm.
Where Obi-Wan, basically has to deal with the idea of having to kill his apprentice, and Anakin has to deal with killing his master as he's fallen to the dark side. And just the music, the raw emotion, the set and the background, and like the very quickly paced fighting that immediately follows it is all just perfect. This scene is, like, in my opinion, flawless. I would not change a single thing.
It's pretty great.
I love it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because I've like recited it so many times, but it's fun.
That's fair. This sequence is also amazing because we get two great battles happening at once. That being Anakin and Obi-Wan, of course, Battle of the Heroes, and Palpatine and Yoda, which not a lot of people talk about, but it's still a great fight. There's a lot of great visuals in that sequence.
Especially when you realize that it's probably like the two most powerful Force users going head to head. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
On that note, I love Yoda going in and just taking out the Emperor's guard.
Yeah.
It just always cracks me up.
Yeah, I wrote Palpatine's red. I wrote Palpatine's red guards suck. Like, they're awful at their job.
Also, that guy. What is it? Is his name Masameda?
Right? Yeah, like Masameda or like something like that.
Standing there watching this all go down.
And then he just leaves. Then he just walks out.
Yeah, no. And so the two of them fight alongside the Battle of the Heroes, and like the Battle of the Heroes, I think is my favorite lightsaber fight ever.
Yeah.
But there's this point where Anakin mouths something to Obi-Wan, and even the subtitles say mouthing. I have no clue what he's saying.
Yeah. I wish I could read lips. I don't know. That would probably be helpful. But
What?
I wish I could read lips. That would probably be helpful, right?
That would be good for me, so apparently I can't hear. Yeah. And then I also have to talk about this part that I've always loved, where the two of them are just like swinging their lightsabers like this, not hitting each other for like a solid like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
A bit of an example, but there's a consistent part where they're just swinging around each other. It looks like. And so Yoda and Palpatine sort of call it a draw.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. It just seemed weird for me anyway. It seemed weird for the fight to end there. I felt like they both probably could have gone.
Yeah, well, Yoda lost his lightsaber.
I guess so.
Yeah, there's that. Are we at one of Anakin's most iconic lines here?
Give me a bit. I have just a bit more. All right. Anakin, like, it's another thing that makes this fight so like heartbreaking. Is these are two men that like loved each other, and now they're like going out of the way, not just risking their lives like fighting each other, but like they're doing whatever they can to try to get a hit on the other guy while they're like balancing on like some sort of platform, like dodging lava. And so like the fact that they're willing to go to such extents just to try to kill each other, I think just adds a whole nother layer of heartbreak to this scene. I wrote down grapple and lava. Oh, yeah, the scene where they like grab a hold of each other and then the like lava shoots up in the background. That's a very iconic image in my head. That's all I have up until Anakin's iconic grab.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Obi-Wan yells, "Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil." And Anakin turns back around and says, "From my point of view, the Jedi are evil," which is one of the single best lines that Anakin has in the entire series. It's so funny.
I mean, to be fair, he had been convinced that the Jedi were like literally committing treason
It's
against...
true. Yeah. And that's another reason why it's a good line, because he genuinely believes it. Yeah. In like right after that line, Obi-Wan and Anakin, so they're on these robots speeding over the lava, and they speed like past these Mustafarians who are just standing there. I wonder what their thought process was. Like the Mustafarians, are they like, oh, just a typical Tuesday? These Force users coming around here with their lightsaber battles. I want to know what they were thinking.
Yeah, I just have to say, just the musical score of Battle of the Heroes is arguably the best, I think, out of all of them, up there with like Duel of the Fates and the Jedi Temple March.
Yeah.
But like, if you were to ask me which piece is my favorite on any day, most of the time I will probably tell you Battle of the Heroes. It's
fair.
So good. It is so good. John Williams, like, at his finest.
Yep.
And yeah, so Anakin ends up chopping all of Anakin's limbs off except for his robotic hand.
Yeah.
Which is just like the biggest middle finger ever.
Yeah.
I know he probably didn't do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, Obi-Wan, he did have the high ground, and Anakin went anyway, so...
I don't get what Anakin was trying to do there. Like,
yeah.
Couldn't have moved a little bit, like, to the side, but no, he jumped straight at Obi.
It's true.
3PO. And so Obi-Wan, they have their, like, exchange. You were the chosen one.
You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
It's a sad scene as, the mentor watches his apprentice, in pain. But, he knows that it's best just to not save him. And then 3PO says to Obi-Wan, "We have Miss Padme on board when he returned." And I'm wondering who "we" is.
R2, I guess.
Like, it was Padme, 3PO, and Obi-Wan, unless they had another stowaway.
I think, because I think R2 probably helped.
I'm okay with them, so I don't know who.
I think it was R2, because R2 was with Anakin's ship.
And then, so that just raises the question of how they got Padme on board.
It's true. They just pushed her. It was super uncomfortable.
And then speaking of Padme, she just loses the will to live and dies.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Just her dying of sadness?
I've heard that is, like, technically possible.
Yeah.
But it just seems kind of, like, odd,
Yeah.
I don't know,
It seems like shoehorned in there just because they had to find a way to kill her
like
off.
They couldn't come up with a reason. I feel like if they really wanted a reason, they could have just had, like, I don't know, I guess, like, Anakin's Force choke kill or something, but then she wouldn't be able to deliver babies. Can you, like, cut babies out of a dead person? I don't know.
I think if the mother dies and the baby's still in there, then the babies die. That seems to be a logical path of...
yeah, so they couldn't do that. I don't know. I don't know. There was probably a better way.
Oh, definitely.
Not that I can think of. Big sad shirt certainly ain't it. And I love the droid just constantly going ooh bah in the background.
Yeah, it's really helping Padme, like, pass into the great beyond. That's like the last thing she hears.
I want to believe that it's designed to say that because that is, like, statistically the most relaxing thing to hear or something. Like, they made like tests or whatever, and the sound that people most reacted to that relaxed them was just ooba. I just don't know where that came from, because I feel like if you want to calm somebody down, or, like, she would be speaking the same language.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is. And anyway, then we see Vader. We see Vader come out. He gets rebuilt. The mask comes on, and everything clicks into place. He destroys the Kool-Aid Man, and he just.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy that James Earl Jones played Vader in this one. I'm very happy that we got James Earl Jones for this one bit of voice at the end. That was great. That was fantastic.
He screams the no. I actually was wondering if that was Earl Jones.
Yeah, it was.
I know it's still Hayden Christensen in the suit.
In the suit, yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to say Anakin as a character is a pretty good one.
Yeah, definitely.
You can follow his struggles rather clearly throughout the trilogy, and even though his love story is a mess.
Yeah.
And like the source of the worst dialogue to ever come from Star Wars, Anakin as a character is a pretty good one in the prequels. He gets better in the original trilogy.
Yeah. I believe Padme's funeral's next, right?
Yes.
We get some Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones cameos from some Gungans, the new Queen, Jar Jar, not Jar Jar, Padme's parents, and sister, I believe. What's interesting is that Ahmed Best and Brian Blessed, who played Jar Jar and Boss Nass, did not play them for this bit. So I think they were
really?
like because they don't speak, so there's no reason to have them in there. Like there's no reason to pay them. They could just put them in with CGI because that was this is their only role in the movie. So I just thought that was interesting that they were in there without the actors playing them. Yeah.
Let's see here, and then after that, Yoda talks to Obi-Wan about Qui-Gon, which I didn't realize until now. Or not now. I didn't realize until I watched the Clone Wars, how little that line makes sense unless you have seen the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just what does Qui-Gon have to do with anything, and what is it that they're going on about? And then you realize if you watch the Clone Wars that Qui-Gon discovered the secret to eternal life as a Jedi and all that. And then
yeah, it definitely seemed like it doesn't really have a place here. But
it just seems so weird, because this was made without that context backing it up, and you could say that it was planned out from the start. I'm assuming it was, but I can only imagine what conclusions people drew of that. Because the Clone Wars haven't come out yet. That 6th season started to come out for another decade.
Yeah, it's true. And after that, I believe, is Darth Vader and the Emperor looking out at the in production Death Star. As you mentioned before, Hayden Christensen did in fact play Vader in here, physically play Vader, which I think was nice because it keeps the feel and the vibe that it is indeed Anakin in there, and not someone standing in for him, which is cool. We do get a cameo by Grand Moff Tarkin here, a younger Grand Moff Tarkin.
I was about to say I have him down in here. Is it the original actor, CGI?
No, it is a new actor named Wayne Pigram, who just played him, because we can only see him sort of from the side, so he could look vaguely like Peter Cushing, and it wouldn't really have mattered. But yeah, they would only do the CGI for Rogue One, which I think was interesting. Right. Yeah.
I was about to say, if they did that for that would be kind of impressive for a 5-second scene.
Yeah.
That came out in 2005.
Yeah.
And then after that, this is my final note. Luke got kind of screwed over.
Yeah.
Because you see him, he gets given a moisture farmers, and Leia is given to she's given the title of princess.
Royalty, yeah.
She's clearly way better off than Luke is.
Yeah.
And
oh well. So, why would they send him to his family? That's such a dumb idea.
You really think that he wouldn't look there? I don't. Maybe. I mean, if I were, I would have checked, but I probably would have. Some of the kids died with Padme.
That's true.
So I don't think he would have looked like all that hard, but you still think that he would have done something about the Lars.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah, definitely. I have a final fun fact about the very end, the last shot. So Joel Edgerton, who plays Uncle Owen in episodes 2 and 3, he was actually not on set for the filming of this finale because he was off doing something else. So they CGI'd him in later on. So he's actually not physically there, which I think is really interesting because he only physically interacts with Beru when she hands him the baby, but that's seeing him from the back, so it was a different person playing him. So I think that's pretty cool. Joel Edgerton got paid for doing one shot in front of a green screen of him standing and looking out at the sun. Like that's like the cushiest job ever, man. The cushiest acting job. I mean, come on.
Or I can get a job like that, but
yeah.
And Revenge of the Sith.
Yep, the best prequel. And
we covered the best prequel, and last I checked, it is the second on both of our lists.
Yes.
And I think about it, like it definitely deserves that spot. The music, I think, is the best out of the entire saga. The characters are all excellent, with a couple of exceptions. Like Padme, it sort of falls in this one. But like Obi-Wan, Palpatine, Anakin, even Mace Windu, they're all like excellent.
Excellent characters, yeah.
Excellent. And of course, Grievous and Dooku. Obviously it shows the creation of one of the most iconic movie characters of all time. It shows the fall of it finally gives us that sort of missing link, how this young, not hopeful, but like this young Jedi turned into the Dark Lord of the Sith that we know him. Pretty great movie.
Definitely a great one. And
9.5.
Yeah. So our next review, whenever that comes out, will be Solo: A Star Wars Story, which I think is going to be an interesting one because I don't know how much I have to say about that movie. So
I can't imagine I have a whole lot. I feel like most of my criticisms are going to be repeating sort of the same points but about different things.
Yeah.
And the issue with that movie is the consistency, but we'll see when we get it.
Exactly. So for all those of you out there listening to Across the Stars, if you've gotten this far, I mean, like, goddamn, I am impressed. We're an hour and 40 minutes in, man.
Especially if you listen to the other two about our movies. Thank you for listening to us ramble on this first time.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks for listening or watching whatever medium you are viewing us on, and we will see you all. We'll be back next week with another episode.
Ta-da!
Bye-bye.